Board of Wayne County Commissioners meeting for February 10th, 2026. Good morning, Mr. Mokrajski.
Good morning.
Council Bovet. We already got him to talk. That's a good sign. Mr. Mokrajski, do we have any adjustments to the agenda?
No, not today.
Okay, any emergency business? Well, next up is employee recognition, and I will hand that over.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioners, good morning. I'd like to invite Mike Finch, our Chief Information Officer, and Kim Morgan, our security guru here to the table. And we're going to talk about cybersecurity. 9 o'clock on a Tuesday morning. Let's go. Cybersecurity. So this is something that can be hugely impactful to organizations, and in our case, to our taxpayers, particularly in terms of cost, disruption to our operations. We saw in Coos County a couple years ago, Curry County, that the costs that they've had to that they've been impacted by because of their cybersecurity breach was about $4 million. We've seen up to $20 million. So this could range anywhere from $500,000 impact up to $20 million. So significant cost impacts, disruption to organizations. So a big issue that could impact our entire organization and our ability to deliver services and cost to taxpayers. So we take cybersecurity very seriously, and over the past year, our security and infrastructure teams have made significant strides in strengthening the organization's cybersecurity resilience. A key part of this process has been the adoption of a zero-trust security model. Now, we try to create a culture in Lane County where there's a high level of trust among our people. But as it relates to technology, we've implemented a zero-trust security model, which is a modern approach that assumes nothing inside our network is automatically safe. So we're not trusting any of that information. Every user, device, and application must continuously verify their identity and permissions before accessing data or systems. You can think of it like a secure building where every door requires an ID check, even if you're already inside. We often do that in our buildings where we have secure areas and you have to badge into those areas. So by applying these zero trust principles to our servers, as well as requiring multi-factor authentication, which is a several step process to authenticate your ability to access systems and information internally and externally, and getting rid of high-risk legacy systems, we've substantially reduced organizational risk and enhanced the protection of our critical data and infrastructure. These efforts reflect not only technical excellence, but also a proactive commitment to safeguarding the organization and our taxpayers against evolving cybersecurity threats. So we're here to recognize this team. Mike and Kim, I'd invite to say more. I want to just call out, if it is the folks who are here with us, I'll list the name of the folks that are part of our technology services cybersecurity team. If you're here, just raise your hand so folks know who you are. John Baldwin, Jasmine Blair Sunkler, Jamie Cross, Amy Gurley, Maurice Gwynn, Maurice Machado, Kim Morgan, Joellen Moyer, Eric Oster, Evan Powell, Skylar Schutpels, David Torres, and Chris Watson. So this is our technology services cybersecurity team. Again, a group that works largely behind the scenes, but doing really critical work to safeguard our systems, our data and information, and make sure that Lane County can continue to operate effectively and mitigate risks both to our organizational operations and impacts to taxpayers. So I want to thank this team for their incredible work and ask Mike and Kim if you'd like to add anything.
And first, thank you for having us here today and recognizing this incredible group. You know, it's across many functions. Everybody has a role in cybersecurity, right? And so this is a thank you to them who definitely had a large role in this, but really to everyone in the organization and of course all of you commissioners for your support for this work in making it a priority. But it's not easy, right? We all have to put in the the pins and the passwords and get little codes on our phones these days, right? But it's because it's impacting all of us, not just at work, but at home. The things we teach here and learn here, we carry into our lives to help protect ourselves and our loved ones. Because 10 years ago, we were using phrases such as, it's not if you get hacked, but when. Today, we're using phrases such as, it's not when, but how often and how far do they get? Because it's getting in, right? So it's these measures, the reason we have zero trust is because we have to assume it's made it in at this point, and we're blocking it when it comes around and then finding it. We spend many search and destroy operations for emails that make it into our organization that we have to go clean out weekly now, it seems like. So the work is critical, and it's supported by everyone who makes the time to adopt new practices, to look for the phishing emails and click the phish alert, right? And accepts having to put in pins and put in the codes to make sure that we're safe in the work we do every day, and supports these amazing folks who are coming around and trying to help them get this put in place. So really, really appreciate everybody's work on that, and the support of this organization and our community and our families and loved ones for all this work. So Kim, did you have anything to add?
Just thank you very much for your support. And it takes, yes, it's a cybersecurity effort, but that's from service desk, field services, project managers, infrastructure, and the security team who are all here being represented. It's a team effort, including the end users. So thank you for your support.
Just an example I'll give is I was in my office yesterday with our public information officer, Devin Ashbridge, and she was checking her email, and she said she got an email from I think a well-known, respected business person in the community. So it looked like, oh, I know this person. And it said, and it started by saying, Sheriff Ashbridge. Now, we all know it's Sheriff Wilkerson, not, that Devin Ashbridge is not, so that was an immediate sort of tip. And then she, did some digging, checked with TS, like, oh yes, in fact, that was a phishing email to try to suck you into. So we get these all the time, and it does require good technology systems. It also requires an effort on behalf of the person who receives that to double check and go, something looks different here. But it's a constant effort, and appreciate that we have the technology staff that is building those systems and doing that work. And then as Mike and Kim said, the folks throughout our organization that are making sure that they're being diligent in catching these things as well. So Chair, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much. To the board, do we have any comments, any thank yous? Commissioner Lovell.
I'll lead this off. Again, thank you. Mike, you run a great team. Kim, you run a great team. And I was just having a conversation with Jill this morning about why is it ITs are always in the background and not in the foreground? And her response was that we don't like people, we want to be in the background. So I appreciate the fact that you're still there, and I can depend on that. And I do know this, that it's kind of one of those old lores that IT people have. The only secure computer is one that's turned off. And I really thank you guys and the IT security team that you allow us to keep our computers on. But not only doing that, you allow us to be working securely, seamlessly, and systematically day in and day out without disruption. And that has a great degree of success on your part. All the successes on your part. It's certainly not me or anybody else related to me. And you're an important part of the people, and I think putting you in the foreground today is an important thing for the public to know. I had a kid in high school tell me that in the future, this was like in the 70s, he was saying that in the future we'll have two kinds of people, those that are computer geeks and those that are carrot pickers. And so I'll continue to pick my garden well, and you continue to do what you do well, and I appreciate you very much, so thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anybody else? Commissioner Farr.
Thank you. Kim, I'm going to talk to you because I talk to Mike all the time, and to all you sitting out there who do all the work. Because you don't trust, zero trust, means that we can trust. And that really is the bottom line for me, is that when I see something, I'd like to be able to trust it. And if it's from an external source, you always tell me if it's from an external source, which lends a measure of eyebrow raising on my part. But it really, finding ways to trust is what you're looking for. So by not trust, it kind of goes against people's grain. It's like, well, you don't trust people until they prove that you can. It's just the opposite, isn't it? You do trust until they prove that you can't. But I'm glad that you're on the job doing exactly that, because it makes it, when I punch this thing right here, I can kind of trust what's coming up, and I can answer because you said it's okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much for making this work a lot easier.
Thank you. Mr. Trigger.
Thank you. Well, thank you all for what you do every day, and to the agenda-setting team that brought this work forward. One of the things I love when we do employee recognition is the folks that come here and they're super passionate about their specialty area, and they love to be asked about it. So I'm going to actually ask a question, and they love to share the knowledge, the deep knowledge that you have. What is the difference if I can tell something is phishing, or I suspect, between clicking on the little thing up on the ribbon tab to say, I think this is phishing, versus just delete that email because I can tell it's not something I should open or deal with?
Good news is if you delete it, you're not doing any action. If you report it, then it comes to a security team, and we can actually look at it. So if you report it and 45 other people also report it, that triggers an investigation, like Mike was saying, and some remediation actions that need to happen. And if it's a phishing test, sometimes you'll get a positive, hey, you caught the fish. Or if you don't get it, this has been reported to your security team. So it's a matter of investigation versus just ignoring it. If everybody ignored it, we may not see it in our infrastructure and be able to do the research and do the remediation.
Great. And so those investigators, that's not something we used to need to have, right? So this is another example when we are talking in budget time about how the sort of the cost of doing business is increasing. We don't just mean the dollar amount of a given thing has increased. We mean the things that are required to keep the county running and to keep the public's resources and assets protected. Costs more because there's more to do because of this new climate that we're in. Great. Well, thank you. Thank you all so much. Really appreciate your work. Thank you.
Vice Chair.
Congratulations for being recognized today and all your hard work. We appreciate you working here at Lane County. We know that you do the work behind the scenes to protect the public's information. The information that we have here at the county is really taxpayer information, and some of it is quite sensitive. And they entrust us with ensuring that that information is safe. And I appreciate that you are in the background doing all that hard work. I do diligently click the little phishing thing when I think it is, in fact, phishing. And sometimes I wonder, okay, what happened to that? All I know is it kind of deletes out of my inbox, and I feel like it's taken care of. And that's what we want, right? That's what you all do. So thank you so much. And it's really important that the public also knows that we have a whole team that's working on this every single day, even though that you're not the ones always in the limelight. We want you to be, because you do such great work. Thank you.
You guys do such great work. Yes, it is greatly appreciated. And from where we sit, it's kind of like magic. Everything just always works. It's perfect. If it doesn't, Ryan comes over and he fixes it. But so, no, you guys it is greatly appreciated. And I can assure you that it's greatly appreciated by Curry County still. When you go to an event, you hear about the great things you guys did to come and help them. And I think we all know what that's like to be out there and you feel like you're on an island by yourself and have somebody come that's willing to help and wants to help and is capable of helping. So thank you guys. And just one more shout out to, I think Jazz got some extra recognition from our sheriff's department a little while back. So for some of her great things, and IT, you guys are continuing to do great things. Thanks a lot. Okay, next we will move on to public comment. And speakers will be taken in the order in which they sign up and will be limited to 3 minutes per public comment. If you wish to submit written comment, please send an email to publiccomment@lanecountyor.gov by no later than noon the day before the scheduled meeting. You have 3 minutes when you get to the podium, and say your name, please. First up, we have George Benson.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Sounds great.
My name is George Benson, and I'm here to tell you that Hutchinson Cox is under federal criminal investigation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have David Eigel.
Good morning. I was stunned to learn that although I documented that a false historical narrative was being misused by the retired masseuse Californian Talisha Brown to promote the North Bank Memorial Project, the project has not been canceled. Lane County funds and departments have been hijacked to facilitate this fraud. Last Friday at City Club, among other misrepresentations, Ms. Brown again spouted her falsehood that Eugene had been a sundown town. She mentioned Wiley Griffith in her talk. During the Q&A, I pointed out that Wiley Griffith had been a beloved member of the Eugene community and that when he died in 1913, he was a Eugene homeowner. In 1912, he said there's no place he'd rather live than Eugene. Also pointing out that during the first half of the 20th century, there were many black residents in Eugene. I asked Ms. Brown if she believed these residents had been required to leave their homes at sunset and return in the morning. Her non-answer was to say, "Thank you," and nothing more. She knows she's lying, and I believe there's some problems here. I was heartened by the thank yous and handshakes I received from some native black Eugenians who were in attendance. Making false statements to potential donors to attract donations is a Class A misdemeanor. My original complaint filed with the City of Eugene Police was not pursued because an officer erroneously believed that it was the responsibility of the state AG's office. Believing the North Bank Memorial Project abandoned, I didn't pursue it further, but I will now. I ask everyone to encourage the DA's office to vigorously prosecute Talisha Brown. Commissioner Trieger was at the event last year in Alton Baker Park, enthusiastically promoting the memorial. Commissioner Trieger, would you please comment on what actions you've taken to put a stop to this nonsense or why you failed to act? Thank you.
Hey, thank you for your public comment. That is all I have signed up here in Harris Hall. If there's anybody else that would like public comment. If not, we will move on to online. Ms. Gibb, do we have anybody online?
Yes, we do, Chair. Thank you. We have Joe Tyndall. And Joe, I have turned your microphone on. And would you like to be on camera for your public comment?
No.
Of course not.
You may begin when ready.
Thank you. Joe Tyndall. The news cycle has moved quickly regarding election fraud. Specifically, I will discuss the Fulton County, Georgia Vote Counting Center FBI raid, where truckloads of 2020 election ballots, envelopes, and so on were removed for inspection. Why was this done? As you may recall, Fulton County claimed there's a water pipe break on Election Day. All the observers were kicked out. Then a covert surveillance camera showed the counting resumed. Boxes of ballots hidden under a table having a skirt around it were pulled out and processed. 300,000 ballots were counted during this interval. At that time, Joe Biden was losing badly. Workers have stated all or nearly all ballots were for Biden. Some claim the Biden bubbles were filled in when these ballots were printed and they were never folded. Tabulation tapes were not verified against voter lists and signed by the workers as required. No signature checks were done. Do envelopes for these so-called mail-in ballots even exist? Probably not. Finally, this counting station's returns were abnormally high to the level of a statistical impossibility. Result, Joe Biden won Georgia by 11,779 votes. Other states show similar problems. Even though the FBI attained a warrant, the anti-Trump woke media called this raid unlawful. The rest of the world calls it overdue. For 5 years, all attempts to inspect these ballots were blocked in violation of state and federal law. In addition, Fani Willis tried to convict Trump of election interference for questioning this. Was the 2020 election stolen, as I contend the 2000 Bush-Gore election was also? Did a stolen election cause 4 years of open borders and the vacuuming of wealth from working people? Soon we will learn the truth. So how does this apply to Lane County? Answer, roughly 1/3 of the names on the Lane County voter rolls are dirty. Did people who died or moved away prior to November 2020 vote? Did non-citizens vote? I want the truth. When the bogus names are removed to fulfill the terms of the Oregon voter lawsuit settlement, will you compare the list of purged names to their 2020 voting history? All of you took an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States. So did election officials in Fulton County, Georgia. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your public comment. Is that everyone, Ms. Gibb?
Yes, it is, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we will move on to the consent calendar. All items listed here are considered to be routine by the Board of Commissioners and will be enacted by one motion in the form listed below. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent calendar and will be considered separately. Ready for a motion?
I'll move approval of the consent calendar for February 10th, 2026.
Second?
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Buck, seconded by Commissioner Lovell, to approve the consent calendar for February 10th, 2026. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Next up, Mr. Bozak, we have County Council, first reading and setting second reading and public hearing for ordinance 2508. Here comes Mr. Marcus Vehar.
Good morning.
Good morning, Marcus. How we doing?
Good, how are you?
Excellent. When you're ready.
All right. I have nothing by means of introduction. I believe that we sent you a script, or you should have one for today. I imagine this will be very similar to the conversation we had concerning the Comcast contract extension as well, too.
Okay, so this is time for the first reading for ordinance 2508. Is there a request from any commissioner to read the ordinance in full? If not, I will read it by title only. Okay. Not hearing any request to read the ordinance in full, the title of the ordinance is, in the matter of amending Chapter 8 of Lane Code to extend the term and franchise agreement with Charter Communications for a non-exclusive franchise for operation of a cable communication system to January 5th, 2027, executing the franchise agreement extension and declaring an emergency. LC 81001010. Okay, I will now hand it over to Mr. Vehar.
Great, thank you very much. And so the purpose of this item is to extend the Comcast franchise agreement we currently have to go through 2027 to allow us to continue negotiations. We have been in works with Charter to be able to exchange a draft, and so unlike the Comcast, where we had a couple different jurisdictions working with us to be able to find a common interest between Eugene, Springfield, and the non-incorporated areas, this agreement is focusing primarily just on unincorporated areas for Lane County and other provisions that are outside of city jurisdictions. So we're not working with the other groups like we have before. The negotiation cycle has been a bit slow. I think that for a while we were kind of waiting on responses. They're waiting for us to be able to return some information that we just need to kind of dig further into for the agreement, and we've been in good contact with them to continue negotiations onward. And so the hope is that with this extension to 2027, that will give us more than ample time for us to solidify the agreement with Charter and be able to present it to you all for signature or comment, essentially, if you have anything else to add. For the most part, I think what stalled out negotiations is, again, there was a bit of a lull in communication back and forth for a little bit. We picked it up again, and we tried to pursue negotiations a bit vigorously. Now we're just kind of waiting for us to be able to finish our analysis on the agreement, as these are unfortunately fairly technical. There's a couple pieces we want to be able to address with them specifically, and we're hoping that this extension will allow for us to do so. The original agreement did expire back in 2025. However, there is an ongoing understanding to operate under the same terms until we come to a new agreement. So while I don't think it's so pressing that we need something to happen by tomorrow, I do think it's important to have this be declared an emergency just so we can get that extension lined up and signed. And unlike the previous one before, this one looks a little bit different because we actually have an agreement extending the franchise agreement, and that's going to be included within our code as well too. While previously before we did a direct amendment to the agreement. So this one looks a little bit differently, as there's a separate signed document that's being included through the ordinance. That's just them recognizing the extension, as well as we're hoping to sign it once we get approval. That will then put the extension into place and it will be extended through our code. So that's why it's coming through the form of a code change, is that similar to Comcast, we want that extension to be put into the code to be able to help modify the current agreement that's there into Chapter 8.
Okay, at this point, I will see if any commissioners have a conflict they wish to declare. Anybody? Okay, seeing none, do we have any questions pending for this ordinance? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Behar, do you have any additional comments you would like to add?
No, not this time.
Okay, well, at this time, I believe, Vice Chair, we are ready for a motion.
All right. I move to approve the first reading and set ordinance 25-08 in the matter of amending Chapter 8 of Lane Code to extend the term and franchise agreement with Charter Communications for a non-exclusive franchise for operation of cable communication system to, it says here to January 5th, but I believe you meant, this says, oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. To January 5th, 2027. Yes. Executing the franchise agreement extension and declaring an emergency for a second reading and public hearing to occur on March 3rd, 2026 at 1:30 p.m. in Harris Hall of the Lane County Public Service Building.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Vice Chair Buck, seconded by Commissioner Lovell, to approve the first reading and set ordinance 2508 in the matter of amending Chapter 8 of Lane Code to extend the term and franchise agreement with Charter Communications for a non-exclusive franchise for operation of a cable communication system through January 5th, 2027, executing the franchise agreement extension and declaring an emergency. LC 810010 for a second reading and public hearing to occur on March 3rd, 2026 at 1:30 p.m. here in Harris Hall. Okay, any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ordinance motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. I'll see you in March.
Thank you, Mr. Behar. It's appreciated. Okay, next up, we have 6B, Order 2602-1006, and here comes Mr. Thiel next up.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners. So this matter is in regard to a ballot initiative that qualified for May's ballot. This is what's entitled the Watershed Bill of Rights, Lane County Watershed Bill of Rights, via a petition. Late last month, petitioners informed the county clerk's office that they wish for the matter to appear in the state voters pamphlet, which it will, and that then triggers the board's obligation to then appoint a committee to draft an explanatory statement that will accompany the measure in the state voter pamphlet. So what's before the commissioners is an order that would establish that committee, lay out the requirements as imposed by both state law and Lane Code. For example, that the statement be no more than 500 words, that it be simple and unbiased, and that to the extent possible, the makeup of the committee be 3 to 5 members with a balance of proponents, measure proponents and measure opponents, and one neutral person, and then delegating to the county council's office the authority to actually identify and appoint those members promptly so that they can get their work done by a March 12th deadline. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, to the board. Mr. Trigger.
Thank you. Thank you for this solution of us delegating both timeliness-wise and just to be arm's length from such a matter that, and I understand there might be some opportunities for us in the future to consider some, would it be code or lane manual amendments to clean this process up?
It's in the code. The process, to the extent there is a process, it's currently in the code.
Great. So Administrator, I don't know if you need an actual assignment later, if that's just something the Office of County Counsel is noting to maybe bring back for a discussion at a future date, probably sometime early in the next calendar year after all the election season, so it's not tied to any particular anything. Do you need an actual assignment for that, or is that just something in the course of the work of the Office of Counsel that you might bring back for a recommendation?
Our intention is to bring it back.
Great, thank you. Thank you, that's all I have, Chair, thank you.
Anybody else have anything? Commissioner Farr.
Thank you. Just to clarify, Stephen, thank you. You and I talked a little bit. Actually, we communicated a little bit regarding this. The committee is equal members, pro and con, with the uneven being neutral.
Correct, and just to highlight a point, that balance is to be achieved to the extent possible, and that's both in state law and the code.
If we can't find anybody in favor or we can't find anybody opposed, then we're exempted. Is that?
From that specific balance type requirement. I will say, as we move through this, I've been able to identify and communicate with some folks both that appear to both be opposed to and in favor of the measure. And so I think in this case, hopefully we'll be able to achieve that balance.
Okay, great. And thanks for bringing this, and thank you for the clarity that you gave to me in our communications. You know, this is a big deal. A lot of people are going to weigh in on this as the time goes along, but reassurance that this is a neutral process that the Board of Commissioners is going through at this point in time. And the ballot language will be balanced neutral.
And to clarify, if I may, Commissioner, of course, the ballot language itself and the ballot title language, they've already gone through rounds and rounds with that, so that's been established. This, of course, being the explanatory statement. But again, the kind of the principle underlying it is ultimately the same, is to inform voters without trying to sway them one way or another.
And swaying one way or another comes apart from that. If any one of us chooses to sway one way or another, that is a different matter. Nothing to do with this podium.
Correct.
Correct. Thank you.
Yes. Well, I agree, this is a big deal, and to our conversation earlier, we haven't had a hard time getting people to weigh in on this explanatory statement, so that would be the plus side of it. Okay, well, if there's no more questions, I'm ready for a motion.
I'll move approval of Order 26-02-10-06 as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion made by Vice Chair and seconded by Commissioner Lovell to approve Order 26-02-10-06 in the matter of establishing an explanatory statement committee for watershed measure, delegating to County Council authority to appoint committee members, and directing the committee to produce the statement by March 12th. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Thiel.
Thank you, Chair.
Appreciate it. And we are on to County Administration for 26-10-07. And I see Mr. Adams and Samantha Roberts coming to the table. Excellent. And the great board wrangler getting us fixed up. Thank you, Jessica.
Good morning.
Good morning. We're ready when you are.
That's good.
we're not scared of a little awkward silence.
Excellent. Well, good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners, and Lane County public. My name is Samantha Roberts. I am the Community and Economic Development Analyst for Lane County, and I'm joined today by our esteemed Policy Director, Steve Adams. And we're happy after this presentation to answer any questions you might have. Today, we're here for the board's consideration of the 2026 proposed allocations for the Rural Tourism Marketing Program. This is a program that distributes funding to our 10 rural communities in the unincorporated area along the Mackenzie River. This year's total distribution is $553,172. And we're also asking consideration for the first annual renewal of the 5-year services agreement with the Mackenzie River Chamber of Commerce. So just to prime that conversation a bit. But first, for those who may not be familiar, the Rural Tourism Marketing Program, or RTMP, is a TLT program embedded in Lane Code Section 4. Under the board's discretion, 10% of a TLT tax is distributed to the 10 rural communities in Lane County, as well as the unincorporated area along the Mackenzie. There are specific objectives and criteria for this program. So funding needs to be spent on activities that attract visitors to rural communities and add economic vibrancy, increase the length of stay by visitors, promote return visits, and countywide visitation. Some examples of how these funds are used throughout the community. I like to think of this as like the fun money that gets distributed in discretionary funding to these communities, supports outdoor and sports recreation, festivals and events, Main Street supports in communities like Coburg or Cottage Grove, and physical improvements to our business districts and rural communities. This is a really, really fun program for these communities where discretionary funds can be hard to come by, and certainly that you get to use on the things you want to use them on and not the things you have to use them on. And an example of this, just want to highlight the photos in today's presentation are from communities that we gathered recently that really show the unique qualities and vibrancy that exists throughout our county. I don't know about you, but I really want to go get in that dune buggy and ride around. And these funds go to support those types of programs. So we're very proud of that. So most of the communities that these funds are distributed to go to incorporated communities, but the unincorporated area along the Mackenzie River doesn't have a city to distribute these funds to. And so we had to traditionally go through a request for a proposal or RFP process to determine who would receive, essentially who would become the fiscal sponsor for those funds and then how they would be distributed. Last year, at your discretion, we entered into a 5-year services agreement with the Mackenzie River Chamber of Commerce to provide some continuity for that area so they would know who those funds are going to and build some momentum for their program. That 5-year services contract consisted of a 1-year contract with 4 annual options to renew. So part of the consideration today is asking for that first annual renewal. And without further ado, the 2026 proposed allocations are in the chart highlighted in this slide. A couple of notes. First, there was a slight increase this year, which was a pleasant surprise of about 6%. From last year's distribution. Again, the total this year is $553,172. We used the methodology as used in past practice. This includes a base distribution of about 35% of the total, or this year is $17,601. The remaining is distributed based on historical data of visitation within those communities. And that will conclude the presentation. We're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Excellent, great presentation. This is the, as you call it, fun money. I like that. Anything from the board?
I'm just more of a sit on the porch with the book and coffee than the dune buggy person, so thanks for having both of those.
Oftentimes one's needed after the other, I suppose. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Commissioner
just,
Farr.
thank you for your hard work on this. And it really is fun money, because the money that we spend on this it leverages other money to bring in to really increase not just people who live here, but the people who come to our community. And it's interesting, the Mackenzie River, what you said about that is $51,000, I think, allocated to the Mackenzie, that corridor. And remember, Heather, a couple of years ago, 2022, you and I stood there and opened that sign, the Mackenzie welcomes you. That was a great day. It should be a national park, the Mackenzie. So anyway, I just wanted to add that point. Thanks, Samantha.
Yeah, and before we vote on this, I'd like to reiterate some of that. And I was looking up there at $24,000 for Junction City. In these small communities, those dollars go a long ways when you're doing things like putting on Scandinavian festivals and things like that. I mean, it helps all that stopgap funding that people work very hard to put these events on. So appreciate it, greatly appreciate it. And we are ready for a motion if that's it.
Okay. I'll move approval of Order 26-02-10-07 as presented.
Okay, we have a motion by Vice Chair and seconded by Commissioner Lovell to approve Order 26-02-10-07 in the matter of approving funding allocations totaling $553,172 for the 2026 Rural Tourism Marketing Program and authorizing a one-year renewal of a 5-year services agreement and funding for the Mackenzie River Chamber of Commerce. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Appreciate the hard work. Okay, I'm looking at you, Mr. Moker-Heisky, for any announcements you might have.
I have 3, Chair, if we have a minute. First, an update from the County Clerk's Office, a reminder that the County Clerk's Office is conducting marriage ceremonies on Valentine's Day, this Saturday. So we'll be in on Saturday. There are 32 time slots available, offering for couples to solemnize their nuptials. We currently have 15 of the slots have been scheduled, so 32 are available, 15 scheduled. We still have room for folks if they'd like to get married on Valentine's Day, or they'd like to renew their vows on Valentine's Day. Interested couples will need to have their marriage license submitted by the end of the day Wednesday to fall within the waiting period of 3 days. We don't do it like they do in Vegas. You have to submit your license, wait 3 days. Also, Friday the 13th, this Friday the 13th is also a popular day for marriages, and our schedule for this Friday is filling up fast. Those licenses will need to be submitted the end of the day today due to the 3-day waiting period. There is a waiver that folks can submit to the as part of their application to waive the 3-day time period, and there's a fee of $10 to do that. So just encourage folks, if they're interested in getting married on Friday the 13th or on Valentine's Day, we have some opportunity to do that, but try to meet those deadlines of today and tomorrow to submit your application. Second, the federal fiscal year 27 request for community initiated projects process at the federal government has begun. Senator Wyden and Merkley have opened their joint portal for community initiated projects, project requests to be included in the federal fiscal year 2027 Appropriations Act. So as usual, they work together, senators work together to identify and secure earmarks across Oregon, and the Senate has a broader diversity of accounts that they can target than is the case for House members. So our policy team, you just heard from Steve Adams and Samantha Roberts, our policy team is working with our departments to identify projects for the Senate side, and we're planning to put forward the following 3 requests. The Water Resources Development Act funding for environmental infrastructure to support the regional expansion of wastewater services. I'm going to talk more about that in a moment related to a different request. So that's one. Second one is microfilm digitation and preservation of our founding documents, deeds, and records from the National Archives account. You heard last week from our county clerk Tommy Gong, the oldest document that we have dating back to the 1800s that we're going to have restored through a special grant that we received there. We're going to go after some additional funding for more of that, more of those document preservation. And then the third item is construction funds for the Stabilization Center from the Federal Health and Human Services account. So those are the three areas we're seeking funding from the 2027 Appropriations Act. And we would appreciate board consent for the chair to sign request letters in advance of the February 20th deadline. So I might just pause there and say, do we have general support for the chair to sign support letters for those three areas so that we can do those by February 10th? I'm seeing support from commissioners. The third item then is the City of Junction City. On January 29th, I received a letter from Jason Knope, who's the city manager of the City of Junction City, requesting that we seek your approval, commissioners, to initiate an amendment to the Metro Plan that would authorize the extension of Metropolitan Wastewater Management Commission services to Junction City. On December 17th, the board approved Order 2412. This was December 17th of 2024. The board approved Order 2412-1705, directing staff to initiate a text amendment to the Metro Plan for an extension of MWMC services to the city of Crestwell after a similar request from Crestwell. In the case of Junction City, they too are under a Department of Environmental Quality, it's a state agency, mutual agreement and order for wastewater processing violations. They have over 500 new housing units in the queue that cannot proceed until they are able to achieve compliance with water quality protection. So when we talk about housing needs, particularly in our incorporated areas, which is where housing is more able to happen, particularly more dense housing, we have 500 units. They're ready to move on those, and the hurdle is not land use issues, but wastewater and infrastructure constraints. So aside from the Metro Plan amendment, Junction City and MWMC, again, Metropolitan Wastewater Management Commission, staff have additional engineering and cost feasibility work to do. So Metro Plan amendment and then engineering work. The extension obviously won't go forward on the basis of the Metro Plan amendment alone. It's going to require the engineering work as well. So with your approval and support, we would like to return to the board with a board order in March authorizing us to do the work on the Metro Plan amendment, the piece that we're responsible for, whether as a standalone or in conjunction with the Crestwell process that hasn't quite been determined yet. So just looking for head nods and support to come back for a board order on that.
Mr. Farr.
Thank you.
Shocking.
Thank you, Chair. You're from Junction City, right?
Yeah.
Ms. Mokryski, thanks for bringing this forward. This matter has been brought before MWMC, and I serve as your representative to MWMC for about 10 years now. The staff and the board is in consideration. As you said, the Metro Plan amendment is only one relatively tiny step. It's a big step, but it's not the main step along the way. Funding, of course, routing, of course, all of that is a part of the ongoing consideration. Now, for me, I'm in favor of it, and I'm in favor of Crestwell as well, because compact urban growth is something that we as Oregonians are sworn to. We're dedicated to, and we really are in favor of compact urban growth. This, adding Junction City and adding Crestwell, would help our efforts in compact urban growth. They are urban. They are urban growth boundary areas, and if we can contain growth, the heavy, dense growth inside of the urban growth boundaries, then that's where we're achieving our goals as Oregonians, and really the way it should be, maintaining the green space that we love, maintaining the forests, the farmlands that we love, adding density to Junction City, adding density to Crestwell would be positive for everything that we are moving forward through as Oregonians. Now, it's not going to be inexpensive, and MWMC is one of the finest systems in the entire nation as far as wastewater distribution. Not just the system itself, but the management of the system. It is stellar, and we are not. Nobody's interested in diminishing the effectiveness of MWMC. this, in fact, could be done, if it's done right, and that's the only way it would be done, it would actually enhance the effectiveness of MWMC by bringing more of the treatment into the central plant, which has a very high track record of returning clean water to the Willamette River system. So I'm in favor of it, Mr. Mokrycki. We'll be moving forward both here and with the MWMC. Matt Stouter, who's the CEO of MWMC, is tuned in. Hi, Matt, listening to you right now because I'd alerted him that you might bring this up. So we'll hear more about this. It's a good thing, and you have my head nod on that, Chair. Thank you.
Well said.
Yeah, so great, thank you, appreciate that, Commissioner Farr. And I will say I hear great things about Matt and the staff that is working with him as well. So you guys are doing a great job over there.
I'll just make one note, and this is sort of to flag a conversation we'll have on March 3rd, 4th with the board around a different public utility conversation that we're responsible for here in Lane County, and that is solid waste. So just mentioned the impacts of wastewater, which is a public utility, right? It's regulated and managed at a regional level from a public utility standpoint, recognizing that there's public interest involved in wastewater, similar to solid, right? And so we have these two jurisdictions, Junction City and Cresswell, that, you know, we need to work together as a county, right, region, to advance those things. And, you know, MetroPlan is one, there are several pieces. We have a role in that to support it. Solid waste is similar, and we'll talk about this on March 3rd and 4th, that, you know, solid waste is also a public utility. There's public interest there, and so we have private components that have a critical role related to waste hauling, and then we have public components around the regulatory and in landfill and other public services. Both Cresswell and Junction City are communities that are not part of, well, Cresswell currently has an IGA with Lane County. We'll talk about this on the 3rd. But they've indicated that they're interested in terminating that IGA, which would then reduce the amount of funding that would come to Lane County to support the broader public system of solid waste and impact transfer stations and recycling and all that. So this is a conversation we're having, and I just raise it as another example of the critical nature of these public utilities like drinking water, wastewater, and solid waste, that we really, there's an important public role in those efforts, and we have to treat them as a county-wide regional effort, not just a jurisdiction by jurisdiction and having certain entities that are sort of subverting the public element of that. So I just call that to your attention, again, as the need for us to look broadly and regionally in a coordinated way throughout our communities about how we tackle solid waste. Thank you, Chair. That's all I had, and unless you have questions for me.
Any questions for Mokrycki? No? Okay. Well, and I'll just point out real quick that Junction City runs their own sanitation department, and they haul it to Coffin Butte. And then, you know, I think that's a testament to how MWMC is doing if these entities are willing to come to them, and that it, you know, it makes fiscal sense. Okay, next, Public Works, 8A, a discussion and order on 2602-1008. I believe we have Mr. Thiel back and possibly Becky Taylor? No? If she wants to, it's up to you.
Somebody has to operate that thing. Good morning again, Commissioners.
Good morning again.
So myself and Becky are here on behalf of the Fatal Crash Investigation Team, FCIT. We're asking the board to approve the creation of a Lane County Safety Corridor Program. A safety corridor is a designated stretch of highway with high rates of fatal or serious crashes, targeted with enhanced enforcement like increased or doubled fines, engineering improvements like signs, and public awareness campaigns to reduce dangerous driving behaviors like speeding and impaired driving. These corridors aim to reduce crashes by increasing driver attention and applying stricter penalties for infractions like speeding, impaired or reckless driving, and with the result of making them safer for everyone.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Becky Taylor. I'm a Senior Transportation Planner, and I'm really happy to be here today.
On this slide is the Fatal Crash Investigation Team, and we're proudly holding the House bill that made the Safety Corridor program permanent. The Oregon legislature, they made this program, they started it as a pilot, and Lane County participated in that pilot program with London Road. And based on the success of Lane County and Marion County's pilot, in 2025, the Oregon legislature, they passed the House bill making the county safety corridor program permanent. The law became effective on January 1st this year, and it stipulates that the Board of County Commissioners of a county must first establish objective criteria for designating a segment of roadway as a safety corridor and operational requirements.
To designate a safety corridor, the county Board of Commissioners must establish objective criteria. The FSIT recommends the criteria be that the road is on the high priority network or has had 2 or more fatal or serious injury crashes. The high priority network is a product of the Transportation Safety Action Plan, the TSAP, that was approved by the board last November 4th. This network consists of roads that were identified through extensive data analysis as having elevated fatal and serious injury crash risk.
The board must also establish requirements for regular community engagement and public outreach, heightened enforcement, and engineering improvements and infrastructure investments. The FSIT, which includes members from public health specializing in prevention education, sheriff's office with enforcement authority, and public works staff to address roadway engineering, have drafted requirements to comply with this law and in consideration of Lane County's resource constraints. Those are listed in Exhibit A to the draft order, and it generally includes a press release and maintaining a project web page, coordinating with the sheriff's office and notifying the courts about the fine amounts changing, and installing safety corridor and fines double signage, as well as speed feedback signs. And if resources allow, we want to implement more robust activities, especially around impaired driving prevention. And we have identified a potential grant funding source through Oregon Department of Transportation that we're investigating pursuing to support enhanced educational campaigns.
So today we are asking the board to approve the order to create the safety corridor program criteria and requirements. This will guide the FSIT in selecting, designating, and operating the safety corridors. The FSIT will actively guide and monitor implementation and will include updates to the board as part of FSIT's semi-annual board reports. We're happy to answer any questions you may have, and thank you for your continued leadership as we move towards 0 deaths.
Yes, and I may have missed that, but 2 or more fatal or serious injury crashes in what amount of time?
In a 5-year period.
5-year period. Oh, there it is. Okay, got it. To the board. Vice Chair.
Thank you very much. I am excited that this program is now permanent. Is it that counties all over the state can create this kind of program at this point? Do we know who else is going through these same motions to stand up a program in their counties?
I believe we're the first.
Okay.
And I anticipate Marion County will, since they also had a successful pilot, will likely pursue a permanent program within Lane County, or their county.
That's great. I ask because, eventually programs like this become very competitive for funding from ODOT. And as we show success in our safety programs, as we did in London Road in our pilot, I wonder how much funding they're really going to have, especially this year. That may be challenging, and how competitive we would be with other programs around the state that are beginning to stand up. So we know it well, knowing that we did the original pilot, so I'm so confident in all the work that you're both doing and your team are doing. And the next step really is to find that funding for you all in order to make it actually successful. And then within the program, once we do get some funding for it. The program will then probably lay out some kind of way in which we would designate certain roads within our system to identify for initial investment. But we don't have that quite yet. That's what we need to work on next, right?
Yeah, the Fatal Crash Investigation Team serves as the safety task force for implementing the Transportation Safety Action Plan. And the Transportation Safety Action Plan has a list of project recommendations, engineering improvements for the high priority network. And so we're looking at different grant sources to implement those projects. The TSAP also recommends the Safety Corridor program as a very effective way to reduce fatal and serious injury crashes with this initial focus on enforcement and education campaigns. Meanwhile, while we're trying to secure funding for longer-term solutions with engineering.
Thank you.
Commissioner Trigger.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing this forward. I have a couple of questions. I'm curious how you say that these safety corridors are typically decommissioned within 3 to 5 years. When does the clock start ticking? Is it when it's identified, when certain funded components are put in place? Can you say anything more about that?
It starts ticking when we install the safety corridor fees double signage, and we notify the courts and the public that we're going to be enacting the legislation that involves an increase in the fines. And then the timing of the decommissioning is really up to us. And we know that it can be a sensitive topic for communities because most communities really like to see that signage and that presence of a reminder to the traveling public that this is their neighborhood and they want to see safer driving behaviors. And so removing that signage can be seen as a loss. And so we're really wanting to develop clear communications from the beginning about this being a shorter term solution that we're going to be rotating throughout our high priority network, because we have 20-something high priority network roads and we can only have 2 safety corridors in effect at one time. And so the ability to rotate is really important.
Thank you. So hold that thought, because that goes to my second question, but about why 2 per county. I mean, my general understanding is the reason these would decommission at all is these are temporary to help contain the problem until more longer-term permanent solutions through engineering or what have you are put into place. But it's just interesting to me that it's basically not data-driven. It doesn't say you've put these measures in place and in fact we've identified improvements in driver behavior outcomes. But the 2 per county, I'm assuming that was maybe a compromise in the legislation so that this couldn't be abused as we're just going to put up a fines double as a way to make a bunch of money off of people who are driving badly, which I don't think is a terrible idea. It is connected to an action and a consequence. It's not just a new, but is that why? And again, criteria for that, not all counties have the same number of dangerous roads in remote areas that have less controls and safety engineered components. Would it be beneficial to us if we were not limited to 2, or is there any opportunity to work with the legislature on creating some different criteria that's a little more contextual or data-driven around those kind of limitations? Would that be helpful?
You're tracking everything exactly right, Commissioner Trigger. We know that the limit of 2 was intentional on the legislature's part based on perceptions that this would be a quote-unquote money grab, which is so far from our reality because even if we issue citations, the revenue that we get is maybe half of the fine. Most of it goes to the state. And so it's not a sustainable funding source. It's really about deterring the driving behavior. And we've seen on London Road that it did deter poor driving behaviors. Just that signage of a consequence changed driver behavior. I personally would like to see us be able to do more than 2 at a time, just knowing that we have 20-something corridors that need attention, and it's going to take a while before we can secure engineering funding. What the safety task force, the fatal crash investigation team, some of the considerations that we're making in determining how to prioritize implementation is where we're likely to secure some grant funding for some safety improvements in, say, a third year, then that road might be a better candidate for operating a safety corridor on the first 2 years when we know we could get, say, all roads transportation safety funding for some intersection warning treatments on the third year. Then when we're taking away the sign, it's in place of some safety, different types of safety signage. So those are some of the things that we're talking about. But I really appreciate your thought to continuing to pursue legislative changes to expand this tool. And I would like to continue that conversation and exploration.
Thank you very much for the presentation and your work. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. To the board, anybody else? Commissioner Farr.
Thank you. I just have a question, but first to you, Steve. Second time you've seen us today. I just wanted to point out something that you may not know. Sitting next to you is Becky Taylor, who in 2018 was named the outstanding public employee in Lane County by Lane Council of Governments. Have I mentioned that before? I apologize.
I am really honored to work for Lane County, and so the recognition is appreciated. I feel really undeserving of that award, just knowing how many amazing public servants there are out all across Lane County. I mean, I can just think of a couple people within our own organization, but then when I think about people at LCOG or people in Florence, like it's really overwhelming to know that I earned that award, and I just really try to live up to it, so thanks.
Thank you for that response, Becky. My question is regarding safety corridors prior to the legislation that took place. Just south of Coos Bay through Millington down toward the 42 intersection, there's a stretch of 4-lane highway there. And that's been designated safety corridor for a long time. Is that just a local designation, or what are the pre-legislation safety corridors? And if you don't have an answer to that, it's no big deal, but I've driven that. What it does for me is when I drive there, I see safety corridor fines double, and boy, I look at my speedometer. I think you've already pointed out that people do respond to the reminders.
You think that's a state highway? I'm guessing it's a
It is,
state
it's
highway
101,
because
yeah.
the safety corridor designation has been a tool available to the state for state highways for many years. But it was only recently offered through a pilot program for the counties to test it. And then now it's official law that counties can create this program.
That explains it. Thank you. And that safety corridor, I'm looking at results, is very high. It's very highly effective based upon on the speed that people go on it's the high-speed intersection with Highway 42 at that point in time. Well, good. I'm glad we're able to do it. I support the work. Thank you, Becky. Thank you, Steve.
Okay. Well, I just want to say thank you for all the hard work, and it's greatly appreciated here. Looking at your presentation, as I'm looking at the roads, especially in my district that I'm the most familiar with, your algorithm works. I mean, those are definitely the trouble areas I see, so appreciated. And ready for a motion, Vice Chair.
Okay. I'll move approval of Order 26-02-10-08 in the matter of approving the Lane County Safety Corridor Program.
Second.
Second.
Okay, motion has been made by Vice Chair Buck and seconded by Commissioner Lovell to approve Order 26-02-10-08 in the matter of approving the Lane County Safety Corridor Program. Any discussion to the motion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Becky, appreciate it. Give my best regards to Arco in Santa Clara tomorrow. Albeit tonight, right? Tomorrow night, yes. I think it is tonight because I'm at a council meeting. Yes, tonight. Okay. Commissioner business. Do we have any announcements? Vice Chair.
I'll just share that I had the opportunity to go to the Crestwell Hobby Field Airport and view with the Department of Human Services some of their Resilient Hub boxes. So they were able to get some grant money to place these resilient boxes at different locations across the state. We were lucky enough to get them at the Crestwell Airport. Inside has a lot of staging for emergency preparedness supplies. So you'll find things like sheltering, food, and communications, but it's also in coordination with ODART, which is an organization, a nonprofit that's working with people that have hobby planes. And so if they're a critical piece of the picture when we're looking at a potential Cascadia event, in which case we need those airport supplies transported from great distances, or if there's somebody who's having a medical emergency, we can utilize that organization to be able to pick them up and get them to a place where they can be seen by a medical professional. So in case people didn't know that that was there, you could potentially arrange a viewing as commissioners if we wanted to, but it's also important to know that we need to advocate for more of these grants at the state level so that we can place them in other areas across Lane County. And it's competitive, but these staging locations are just critical in cases of an emergency that could happen that we just never know when that will occur. So I thought I'd share that with everybody.
Yeah, interesting. Commissioner Farr.
It was okay to blend with announcements, comments, and remonstrance.
Absolutely.
Just a couple of comments. The first, Ms. Morgraci, I want to talk about history a little bit. You know, we listen to history, we look at history, and we wonder if history is true. And Joseph Stalin said something. Now, Stalin's not one of my favorites, but he was pretty profound in some of the things that he said. And he said that heroes don't make history, history makes heroes. And conversely, villains don't make history, but history makes villains. And the accuracy of history is something that we all should pay attention to. We're at a point in time right now in our history where history is being changed, where what has been written down as history is being rewritten as something different. And from this point in time, everybody who reads about it will read about the history that is created now, or was created at a point in time, not when it actually happened, but an interpretation that fits today's language or today's sentiment, so to speak. I'm not going to say anything very specific about that, other than it's really important. And if you look through time, it's always happened. People have recreated history to match what they want to believe today, to make history match what they want to believe today. A great example of this that I always cite is Richard III and Henry VII. You don't care, do you? But you ask anybody, Richard III, good or bad? Well, he's bad. Well, why is he bad? Because Henry VII said he was bad. He won the war. And so we got to say Richard III was bad forever. So consequently, history has Richard III as being bad from that moment in 1500, 1570 on. And that was exacerbated by the fact that William Shakespeare wrote the 3 plays about Henry VII, not 1, but 3 about Henry VII, one about Richard III, in which Henry VII was a profound hero. Richard III was a villain. And Henry VII was the grandfather of Queen Elizabeth I, who William Shakespeare was writing for. So that was how history was formed. So when we listen to history and people suggesting that history has been revised for a particular reason, it's important to pay attention to that. And it's important to really drill down and find what really is the truth. Is it what this one person's saying, or is it what another person is saying at this point in time? So I think it's really important that we bear that in mind as we look at history. And as we, as villains, heroes, whatever anyone may be, remembering that it's not what you do, it's what people say about what you do, that people remember forever and ever. And that is a really important consideration as we look to change history, always as we look to vilify those who may have changed history, or as we look to correct history that has been changed for one reason or another. Now, along those lines, I found a cartoon that was published in the late 1990s, and it showed Jim Torrey, the mayor of Springfield, punting a ball, and Sid Lycan, Jim Torrey, the mayor of Eugene, punting a ball, Sid Lycan, the mayor of Springfield, catching that ball. And on that ball, it said, "Peace, health." So that point in history determined why no children born in this metropolitan area are born in Eugene. They're all born in Springfield because all of our hospitals are in Springfield. Go back to that point in time when history was being made and look at the vote on the Eugene City Council at that point in time, which was a 7-1 vote to rezone the Crescent area from what it was zoned, hospital, into what it is now, R2 and C1. And it was a push by the Eugene City Council at the time to try to get Peace Health to locate downtown Eugene, where the Eugene Hospital and Clinic kind of used to be. You might recognize it where Eugene Toy and Hobby is today, that general area. The City Council wanted Peace Health to go there. So we, on a 7-1 vote, I'll not tell you who the one, yeah, well, I was the one that said, no, they'll go to Springfield instead, and they did. So we're making history, we're providing history, and let's make sure that if we are quoting history, try to get it correct.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Traeger.
Thank you. Babies born at home can still be born in Eugene.
That's
I will.
true. That's a small number.
Well, speaking of making history and accuracy, I'm not going to speak to history. I'm not going to project the future, but I do want to make a statement about what is happening now, because many, many people in the community are reaching out to us as a group, individually, about the horrors of what this current iteration of immigration enforcement, I hesitate to even call it that, that's happening across the country and right here in our community. And as an organization, we have been responsive at times with support and funding for organizations that are serving families who are directly impacted. And it's very frustrating. I just want the community to know from me personally how frustrating it is that we do not have more ability or jurisdiction or opportunity to disrupt these really unjust actions that are happening across our community and across our country. And that we are working every day as an organization to do what we can to deliver services in a way that mitigates for those harms. We are continuing to serve people who need our services, and we are often having to make really hard choices and adaptations and adjustments based on really capricious and harmful funding decisions that are coming from this federal administration, as well as restrictions on who we're able to serve or how we're able to talk about serving them. And I just wanted to make a comment to the public that on a personal level, it hurts my heart and it makes me angry, but more committed than ever to continuing the work of this organization to improve lives. And that's every life in this community. And that includes the people here in this work site, in the Public Services Building, and the businesses that surround it. The reckless actions of federal agents that happened right across the street from this building within the last couple of weeks in terms of deployment of chemical agents impacted people who were out for a walk, out having dinner at a restaurant, out enjoying a cultural event, and who work in this building. It was really a terrifying and unnecessary display of overreach, and I hope that this federal administration can rein it in a little bit and not visit that kind of harm on this community in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anybody else? We're at announcements or comments or remonstrance? Okay, do we have any committee reports? Okay. Future board assignment requests? Okay, well, that made it pretty quick, easy for you there, Mr. Mokrzycki. We have no review assignments. Any other business before I adjourn? Okay, our next meeting is March 3rd. Thank you very much.